All right, you can get started.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Good night, everyone. My name is Mariah Gleason. I'm a senior planner 2 in the community development department. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is a community meeting, the second community meeting for a special use permit application SP2021-14 Reclaimed Hope Initiative. This meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with the emergency ordinance number 20-A16, an emergency ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster and open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. The first community meeting for this project was held on September 7th, but acknowledging that there were additional comments and concerns that were not able to be heard during the first community meeting, the county and the applicant have worked to schedule this additional meeting. On the call tonight are Paul and Betsy Stevens, the applicants, and Supervisor Liz Palmer and Commissioner Karen Firehawk, as well as Bill Fritz from the Community Development Department. He's here and available to answer questions also. I had mentioned to some of you that I would be providing a summary of the comments and concerns identified during the first community meeting at the beginning of this one. I'm actually not going to do that. I'd like to use this time more efficiently. If you spoke at the first community meeting, that meeting was recorded and a link will be provided to the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. If you emailed me, I have your comments and they will be provided to the Planning Commission and Board as well. Basically, if you spoke to me or if you spoke during the first community meeting or emailed me, you don't need to do anything to make sure those comments move forward. We'll take care of it. What we really want to do tonight is allow those who unfortunately did not get to speak last time the opportunity to do so, or if anything new has come up, to talk about that tonight as well. So with that, there are a couple of ways to participate tonight, and I'll repeat these instructions after I give kind of an introductory presentation, and so does the applicant about their project. But you can participate online by clicking the raise hand button, which is at the bottom of your toolbar. This will notify the meeting facilitator that you would like to speak and you'll be put in the queue. If you're joining us by phone, you want to press *9. Again, that's *9 to raise your hand and be placed in the queue to speak. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. We're going to ask that each speaker plan to only speak once. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the project. And if you were at the first meeting, this is pretty much going to be the same presentation, but it's a good overall presentation just to kind of introduce how the county looks at these proposals and what the proposal request is for this particular project. So I'm going to share my screen and bear with me while I do that. Let's see. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Mariah Gleason. I'm the lead reviewer for this project. The purpose of community meetings relative to special use permits is that they provide a space to share information about the proposed project, the development review process, and relevant policies and regulations that apply. It's also a way for the applicant and county to solicit public input on the proposed project. And a summary of this input is included in the staff report that's reviewed by the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors while they consider the project at public hearings. In terms of how development happens in Albemarle County, we have this graphic. This image might be a bit fuzzy on your screen, but what it basically works to demonstrate is all the different phases of development in the county from start to finish, from concept to building. So looking at this graphic, I can answer more questions about the development process, but what the takeaway here is that we're at the beginning of the process in that tan yellow box. The county ordinance dictates what can be done by right on a property today. County staff review proposed developments to make sure that they meet regulations contained in the zoning ordinance and protect public health, safety, and welfare. Legally, staff can't deny a by right use. The review process for a by right use is called an administrative review. The process we are currently in is called a legislative review, which just means that the project has to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. This is because the applicant is requesting a use on the property that is not a by right use, but is what is instead a special use. Special use applications have a higher level of review. That includes review by the typical reviewing agents and authorities, such as VDOT, Albemarle County Service Authority, the county engineer, building inspections. It also includes review by the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. So the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors consider special use applications at meetings that are referred to as public hearings. Public hearings include presentations by staff, the applicant, and a public comment period. You're more than welcome to attend and comment on this project at those meetings as additional opportunities beyond tonight's meeting as the project continues to be finalized. So so far, no date has been scheduled for either of those meetings. When reviewing or considering a special use permit, the aspects or factors to be considered include 4 things that are highlighted here. 1, that there's no substantial detriment. So an evaluation of whether the proposed use will create a negative impact to adjacent parcels. 2, the character of the nearby area is unchanged. 3, that the proposed special use will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the district that it resides in. And 4, consistency with the comprehensive plan. Before I turn this over to the applicant, just some introductory information about the project. The proposal is a request for a day camp, boarding camp uses on tax map parcels TMP 8823, which is that north-south, and TMP 8823 is actually this parcel here as well. And then the second parcel is TMP 8823E, which is that elongated north-south running parcel. So the total acreage of the 2 is 54 acres. The proposal includes renovating existing residential structures to serve the use and approximately 14,000 square feet in additional development. New buildings include visitor cabins, event communal structures, and a groundskeeper house, and are proposed in existing cleared areas on the subject property. No special exceptions to the county code are being requested at this time. With this proposal, the subject property falls within the hardware agricultural forestal district, so the application has an added technical review by the Agricultural Forestal District Committee. The Board of Supervisors determines that the use, I'm getting ahead of myself. In terms of the timeline, the comments were sent to the applicant for staff's initial review of the proposal on August 11th, 2021. The proposal went to the Agricultural Forestal District Committee on September 22nd. The committee recommended denial of the proposal, citing that it is not consistent with the purposes of the agricultural forestal districts. The applicant is planning to submit revised materials, and there have been no dates set yet for the Planning Commission public hearing or the public hearing with the Board of Supervisors. So with that, I'm going to end my presentation. But just to note that if you would like to email me with comments, my email is provided below, and I'll also put this up at the end of the meeting in case you aren't able to get to copy it at this point. But it is available on the county calendar invite for tonight's meeting as well. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn this over to the Stevens.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bettina Stevens. This is my husband, Paul, and we are the executive directors of Reclaimed Hope Initiative. It is a local nonprofit that serves foster, adoptive, and special needs families in Charlottesville and Albemarle County. Our goal is to limit families separating due to trauma, crisis, or hardship, with the goal of creating wraparound supports to every member of the family in order for them to feel seen, heard, and cared for through some of the darkest times that they've gone through. Our current proposal is in regards to creating a respite retreat center on the property in question. And the goal is to essentially have a place where both parents and children can come together and create a safe space for them to heal in nature. So the lower parcel, which is labeled as Camp Carroll, would be for the children who come, most of which have severe mental health needs, behavioral needs, or physical or intellectual disabilities. And the upper parcel labeled the farm would be used as a parent retreat center for them to essentially have an adult-like camp. So gardening, hiking, enjoying the scenic views, and being able to find rest and respite, knowing that their kids are cared for on the lower property with skilled and trained caregivers who are able to meet their needs. At this time, our goal is to keep everything on the current cleared property without taking down any other trees. We do intend to create some structures that will be able to house guests overnight, with the intent that families will be able to come and stay for one night or 2 nights or a long weekend in order to get a few nights away, and also have children have a camp-like experience that's conducive to meeting their individual needs. At this point, I'm going to pass it over to Paul, and he'll share a little bit more about the conceptual plan.
Yeah, thank you everybody for the opportunity. I won't go into too much detail here. This is a little more detail of the upper parcel. Again, this is for the adults and their kind of camp-like setting.
Paul, I'm sorry to interrupt. Would you mind coming closer to the speaker?
Oh, yeah.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Thanks for the heads up. So this is the upper parcel. This is for the adults portion of it. And you can see the buildings there. There's kind of a main house where they would gather. That's where the adults would spend the night when they were there with their families, their kids on the lower parcel. We're also proposing a self-care center. You see a labyrinth walk, fire pit, tree swings, a lot of outdoor stuff, gardens, trails. There's a little beach next to the beautiful waterfront. There's some parking, and then there's what we're calling a small event space, so that we can support some of our about twice to 4 times a year. We host some conferences around foster care, adoption, special needs support for families. And then, as Mariah mentioned, there's the groundskeeper's house, and then we tried to do a job of showing the emergency vehicle access that would have to be maintained as the kind of additional structures or put on a piece of property. It is so I'll go to the second. On the lower parcel, this is intended to be used by the children, and it's important to note that for 3 months out of the year we will host a day camp. So it would not be an overnight camp. It would be for up to 45 campers that the kids would be able to come. 40, up to 40 campers. The children would be able to come, and it would be what you would probably consider a typical camp experience, but for these kids who have kind of just different abilities, that they would be able to embrace the water and just the beautiful nature and the surrounding space. So you can see we're proposing some kind of basketball courts and a pool and some gardens just for them to be able to enjoy the outdoor space, a playground. We also have a hall, which is kind of your main gathering space for kids in the camp environment. And then the K and L there are the kind of boys and girls cabins are intended for the other 9 months out of the year when we're hosting a specific family unit that the adults would be up in the upper parcel and the kids would be able to stay down here and have a place to stay on the lower parcel. Again, so day camp during the summer months, and then the other 9 months would be by reservation for family units to kind of come and enjoy the property.
As listed as well in our special use permit, we would do a maximum of 6 household families the other 9 months of the year in terms of overnight guests. So that would never be more than 12 adults and their corresponding children, with the goal of keeping that smaller to maintain the ability for them to have space and rest while they're there. Additionally, for our camp, we would max it at 40 campers per camp. and that's the most we would ever do. We currently have campers at 15 per week right now because their needs are intense. And so we would classify that as basically a sliding scale or a gauge between 15 and that highest number threshold of 40 based on the needs of the children who are coming and what we felt like we could reasonably accommodate in terms of their care.
And just the last note, it is important, this is an updated conceptual plan to what has been provided to the county to date. So you'll see the September date.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're having trouble hearing you again. Would you mind? Bettina's voice came through great.
Okay. It's funny, I usually talk really loud and direct. So this is, I've never had anybody ask me to talk louder. This is great. So just wanted to share that the date on this is September 2021. So this is intended to be the revised plan that comes into the county. The county has not seen this yet, but just wanted to share the most recent documents that we have that have kind of responded to some of the comments, both from the county, from Ag4, from the immediate neighbors. So trying to address as many of those things as we can in our revised conceptual plan. At this point, I think we are open for questions and comments.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to repeat the instructions for participating, just in case anybody missed the first part. So if you're joining us online, you want to hit the raise hand button at the bottom of the toolbar. This will notify the meeting facilitator to put you in the queue to speak. You can do the same thing if you're joining us by phone by pressing *9. Again, that's *9 to raise your hand. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. We're going to ask each speaker plan to speak once, just so we make sure that everybody kind of gets a turn, if you will. So with that.
Okay, I'll take it from here. Our first speaker is David. David, please state your name and address. If you're affiliated with a group or organization, and your 3 minutes starts as soon as you start talking. David, go ahead.
David who? David Van Roy.
Yeah.
I would like to say that as one of the neighbors, I object to the traffic. I object to the noise. But most of all, I don't think you understand the concept that farmland lost is farmland lost forever. Though the most of this land is in timber, your plans will need to clear and develop both open space and forest land for building and for septic and for road access. And I don't care what you say, I know the property because I live here. Your request for a special permit is simply a way to sidestep the existing rules. And as such, I view you simply as a developer trying to be slick. And I don't know how you would ever put this land back to farmland once you've built all this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Charles. Charles, please state your name, address, if you're affiliated with a group or organization, and your 3 minutes starts as soon as you start speaking.
Yes, my name is Charles Silehimer, and I live at 1864 Farm Vista Road. I'm a neighbor, and my property is held under a Virginia Outdoors Foundation easement that will keep our property in open space forever. I highly value the rural open space we're so fortunate to enjoy, and which shapes the character of our community. Therefore, I'm obviously very concerned about the short and long-term implications of this year-round, very intensive commercial development that's a very different use than all the surrounding properties. You're clearly in your plan, you're asking for people to view this commercial development with lenience based on the mission of your organization. However, the special use permit is tied to the land and not the owner. Therefore, shouldn't everyone only view this permit based on the land use issues and the conditions for the special use permit and not anything related to you, your organization, or your organization's mission? And if I have time, I have another question as well, which is that one of my greatest concerns is about the safety of Route 29, and specifically the stretch of road outside of my driveway. And your plan has almost no details on any of your traffic plans. And so I am curious how you plan to manage this massive increase in traffic in a very dangerous section of road, and also what enforcement and regulatory procedures would be put in place to keep this business in check if you do violate the number of cars or any of the traffic related issues. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and let you all answer that question before I bring somebody else over.
Yeah,
Two
Carolyn,
questions.
thank you. And Charles, thanks for your comments. Appreciate it. So specifically on the traffic side of things, we are complying with the county and with the VDOT request of having a traffic study done. So we've had that done by a local firm that will be provided with the supplemental documentation that we're going to provide when we do submit updated information. So you'll be able to see that, and we can look at the traffic counts, and you can review that. I would disagree with some of your wording on as far as the amount of cars, but ultimately the traffic study can kind of dictate that, and we can look at what we need to do from a turning lane or what that ultimately results in.
Okay,
Actually, Carolyn, if you wouldn't mind if I kind of also answered that question.
sure.
In terms of how the proposal is being looked at by the county, staff is looking at it as an additional use on the property. So our comments are looking at it as if a camp is going to be proposed for in perpetuity running with the land, and recommending conditions on it as appropriate. And some of the conditions may seem to be tied specifically to their organization. It's kind of a way to make sure that they remain in compliance with the proposal as it was reviewed by the county and the Planning Commission Board. And in terms of enforcement, that would be headed by our zoning division. The county goes off of a complaint-based compliance. So that's usually how we end up making sure everybody stays in compliance with the conditions of approval. In terms of the road improvements, most of the road improvements would happen from 29, would happen within the right-of-way area. And really, in terms of what improvements are needed, that will probably be reviewed more closely once we have an idea of the traffic generation and the report that will be submitted by the Stevens. We haven't looked at that yet.
Okay, next I have Nora. Please state your name, address, and any organization or group you're affiliated with, and your 3 minutes starts when you start speaking.
Oh, hi. My name is Nora Silehimer, and I live at 1864 Farm Vista Road, so I am a very close neighbor. And I am very concerned about this project because I do not feel as though it is consistent with the designation set forward by the comp plan or the Ag Forest District. This is an intensive use of the property, and this property is surrounded by other properties that are conserved either through conservation easement, historic easements, or the Ag Forest designation. One thing I noticed in your proposal, I have just two questions about your proposal, or things that you state in your proposal. You are going to increase the square footage of built buildings by 200%. How is this reversible after you're going to invest all this time and money? Is there a special attribute to these buildings that would make them easy, make any sense for someone to tear them down in the future to return the land to ag. And I also read that you plan to produce a forestal product, and I'm curious to hear more about those plans.
So to address the second one, I don't recall stating we're going to produce a forestal product. If that language is in there, I don't recall that at all. If we have the clear language, we could review that. In regards to the first comment, there's nothing in particular about the structures that we are proposing. We've not gotten there from a planning perspective. Obviously, we don't have floor plans or anything for the different structures. They would be very simple structures that we would ultimately build. I apologize, our son.
Our kids are just
Yeah.
at the door.
So they would be simple structures. Again, nothing unique about them. Would be reversible to get the land. You could obviously take down anything, whether that's some poured in concrete slab or it's some, flooring structure, it's all to be determined. So we would take all those things into consideration as we got to the details of building the structures. I don't think it would be unlike anyone else's house or any other structures that people built on any other land around the area, be it barns or anything else that's even in support of agricultural or forestal stuff. We're not, again, looking to clear cut or do, pour giant slabs or anything like that. So obviously anything is reversible, but how hard is it is up for interpretation.
Okay, next I have Williamizzard, I guess. Please state your name, address, and if you're affiliated with a group or organization. Your time starts as soon as you start speaking.
Oh, thank you very much. My name is Williamizzard. We live on 1940 Farm Vista Road. We're neighbors to the south of this property, and our house where we live, we look right into what would be the upper parcel of the commercial development. I call it a commercial development because this is a very, very intensive operation that's being proposed. Given the capital expenditures, there's no way that it's not going to come without significant road improvements and the like. And when you spend the millions of dollars that are being anticipated here, and you have the number of guests that are coming into a place, I mean, it's a commercial development, and I haven't heard one argument in any of these meetings to support why it isn't a commercial development. I think what's important from our perspective is that we live in a rural area, and we chose to come to this rural area because of the protections that it's afforded. And when we were making the decision to move down here, we looked at things like the comprehensive plan for Albemarle County, and we had some confidence that the rural area that we moved to 6 years ago was going to remain that way. In terms of the standards that you all are going to consider, you're looking at a couple of things. One of your tests is it detrimental to the area, and secondly, is it in harmony with the local rural ag district? On both of those counts, I don't know one neighbor who's supportive of this development. All the neighbors are deeply concerned, and we very much want to maintain our rural quality of life, which we should not have to argue to the contrary. Lastly, with the development, there will come a lot of light pollution that will disturb the rural area. And then finally, we're very water deficient down here. And we also live in a watershed of the Chesapeake Bay. So with this water deficiency, everybody I've known who's built down here has had to either hire engineers or drill multiple wells just to get water. So having a substantial increase in demand with the camp and the invitees is going to put a real test on our supply. And with that said, thank you very much for letting me talk.
Thank you. David, I see you have your hand raised again, but you've already spoke once. We only allow you to speak once during a meeting. I'm going to go next to Melanie. Melanie, please state your name, address, and if you're affiliated with a group or organization, and your time starts as soon as you start speaking.
Hi, this is Melanie Van Roy, and I live at 2310 Monacan Trail Road, which is the driveway just north of the property. Couple of questions. So first, I understand that you guys have made some revisions, and one of my questions coming into the meeting was when would we receive insight into those revisions, and when would that revised proposal be filed? We actually know several people in the neighborhood who are not calling in tonight. But they wrote in comments previously, and they felt that this meeting without additional materials to review and insight into any changes perhaps was not the best use of their time. So we'd like to understand that, because, for example, we've heard you talk about this traffic study, but we haven't seen the traffic study. I'd also like to point out, at least in the initial proposal, there was no mention of the existing development rights on the property, and I'd like to understand what your plans are for those development rights and whether your revised proposal will include the elimination of those rights. I'd like to understand more details around the gatherings and events that you plan to host, and how frequent, how often, and how many. And I'd like to propose, I saw that the staff had included, and this is one of my questions in the first community meeting, around allowing a personal exemption. And if this property is going to be used for commercial purposes, I'd like to not see a personal exemption there then, because then the property is being is being highly developed for business and commercial uses, and therefore shouldn't have any other that's already a special use in that case. And then I would like to also reiterate what my neighbor said. My husband and I, before we moved into our current property, actually looked at the adjacent property just south of the subject properties. That property is under easement. And when we looked at that and we understood the restrictions on it, we decided not to put an offer on that property, and we continued to look, and we ended up north of the subject properties. And that is because we really respect the rural nature of this area. We feel that all of the neighbors do, and we strongly ask that everyone really understand what that means and respect that as well. And this proposal just seems really inconsistent and out of character for this area. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can speak to some of them. How about I'll go first and then I'll pass it over to the Stevens. So starting with the first question about when do neighbors get to see the revised plan, as soon as the Stevens resubmit, I will be pushing that out to the distribution list. So if you're part of that distribution list, or you'd like to be a part of that email distribution list, I would ask that you contact me directly. If you're already on the list, you've already gotten emails from me about this project, you don't need to do anything. I will send an email with information that they have, that one, they have submitted, resubmitted their proposal, and two, where to find the review materials or the materials for your review. And when staff's review comments or a staff report is available surrounding our review of that, then I will also distribute that information as well. But it's kind of contingent on when they resubmit. So once they resubmit, we'll get that information out. And then the second question, or one of the other questions that I can answer, is that personal exemption question. And we can look at the conditions again and make sure that they aren't creating an added, something that wouldn't be on the property otherwise with just a by right residential use. Our goal is not to bolster the use in terms of a by right use. The by right, what we want to do is condition just the special use. We don't want to have anything, we don't want to get them confused between the residential by right use and the special use permit, what's allowed under that. So we can look at the conditions again and just make sure that we are not creating, well, actually, I see Bill has come online, so I might hand it over to him, but I'll just end with the purpose of the conditions is not to, you know what, I'm just gonna pass it to Bill.
I'm happy to help. So conditions on a special use permit are designed to specifically address the impacts of the proposed development. So for example, it is entirely within the board's ability to grant the special use permit and place a condition that limits by right uses of the property. For example, they could approve the use but prohibit further subdivision of the property, even though by right you could do that. That's essentially saying if you want to use the special use permit, you need to give up a by right use. You can't have the impact of a by right use plus the special use permit is too much for this property. So those kinds of things can be done. And the the comments that we're hearing are helpful in crafting those sort of conditions. And I think that answers the question that someone had. If not, they can email Mariah and we'll try to follow up.
May I just ask for one request also? When the new revised plan is put out on your email list, if Paul and Bettina Stevens could put in there what has changed, because I think that that's helpful for people as they read through different iterations of the plan. Thank you.
Andy.
Melanie, I'm not sure we remember all of your questions, but the first one in terms of when we will resubmit, we were advised to wait until all community meetings, Ag Forum meetings, and comments were provided by the county before resubmission. And so that's what we have been going off of, and what we intended to do was to wait until everybody had a chance to speak, take all the comments into play, and then review and revise per what people suggested or how they commented. So our goal is to have that submitted within the next 1 to 3 weeks based on how long it takes us to get everything revised and resubmitted in terms of a place where we feel like we're able to address the comments that were given. In terms of development rights, we don't intend to subdivide the property any further. We intend to keep the parcels as is and would obviously use them under the rights given by the special use permit just as they are. So we wouldn't plan to develop any further than what's written. I'm not sure if there was any other questions or not, but I feel like Mariah and Bill answered some of the other logistical ones. Let me know if I'm missing something.
All right, I have one more person with their hand up. I'm going to try this name. I'm sorry, Berend. Please state your name, address, if you're affiliated with a group or organization, and your time starts as soon as you start speaking. You can go ahead and start.
Can you hear me now, hopefully?
Yes.
This is Baron Van Roy, 2310 Monacan Trail Road, one driveway north of the subject property. I appreciate everybody taking the time again tonight. I've written in previously, so I won't go into my number of questions that I feel like unfortunately won't get answered in the format that we have here tonight with limited time. But Mariah highlighted at the beginning of the meeting that there's 4 or 5 factors that the county is considering or the committee considers. No substantial detriment to neighbors. There's no neighbors in favor. The character of the nearby area is unchanged. It clearly is if you more than 200% increase the density, add swimming pools, basketball courts, and a bunch of other stuff, as opposed to being farmland and forestry. I guess I'd love to hear anybody walk through the actual criteria that are supposed to be considered and how any of them are consistent and how any of them can even be considered for more than a moment. I don't understand, honestly, why we need so many meetings. I mean, I appreciate having them because I want to have everyone be heard, but none of the comments from the applicant or the county make it sound like we're addressing the actual criteria under which we're supposed to be considering this special use permit. Everyone's talking around how it's a respite, it's a nature retreat, it's a good cause. All of these things are true and none of them are in question, but they don't actually address the considerations or the factors, the criteria that need to be considered per the rules of special use permit application. That's it.
Thank you.
If I could just come in as the the first sort of body that will be reviewing this application. I'm Karen Firehawk with the Planning District Commission. When the staff prepares their analysis of this application, they will enumerate how it does or does not meet all the different criteria. So that does not usually occur until after the applicant has completed their application. We're not in the part of the application process yet where they have a complete application, because the county has required them to hear from you all about their preliminary ideas. They'll take those into consideration. Then they will submit their full application, at which point, when the staff prepare their staff report to the Planning Commission, they will go through all of those elements you've talked about, such as whether it is in accord with the comprehensive plan. No one here tonight on the county side is here to support this proposal or to be against this proposal. We're simply trying to move it through the process. And the reason we're having a second meeting is because not everyone who wanted to speak got a chance to speak last time. So it's not that we're trying to have unlimited meetings, but there was not enough time provided last time. And so we specifically requested this second meeting to make sure that everyone who wanted to speak had a chance to speak. And then the last point I'll make is that everyone can continue to make comments to staff and to myself as Planning Commissioner and to Supervisor Palmer. But right now, we're just trying to learn what will be the final application, and that is informed to a large extent by opinions of the neighbors. So with that, it's not the only thing that we consider, but it is a very important factor. So I'll just wanted to put that out there, that we're not at the point where we're reviewing every single element yet. We're waiting to finalize this application.
Very, very well said. Not sure I can add much. The only thing I would add is I think there was a question of where those standards come from, and they come straight from the state code. They're lifted word for word directly from the state code.
Okay, I see that David has his hand up again. I cannot let you speak again, David, because you've already spoken once. We're following the rules of the Planning Commission, and that's how we run those meetings. You are more than welcome to send any additional comments or questions to Mariah, and they will be shared with everybody, including Supervisor Palmer, Commissioner Firehawk, the whole Planning Commission, and the whole Board of Supervisors. At this time, I don't have anybody else with their hand raised. So Mariah, I'm going to give it back to you.
Thank you. I'm going to share my contact information and put that on screen. So if there's something that we didn't get to tonight, or you have additional comments, please email me at mgleason@albemarle.org, and I will distribute that to accordingly, actually. Oh, now you can see it. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that up for a little bit in case anybody else wants to ask questions in between, just so that we give time for that to be written down if wanted. And like I said, if you would like to be part of that distribution list, please email me directly and I'll put your desired email onto that distribution list. Otherwise, I might go ahead and close this out in the next minute here.
Mariah, I'd also like to let everybody know that when this goes back before the Planning Commission, they will have an opportunity to sign up ahead of time to speak, send in their comments to share with the commissioners and the Board of Supervisors, but they will only get 1 3-minute opportunity at that meeting as well.
Great, thank you. Along those lines, I think we've heard a few comments about how some neighbors would like to see a more revised plan or a revised plan and comment on that. the public hearings function and are set up in a way that you are continuously able to speak and make comments on the proposal as it continues to be refined and any revisions on it at the Planning Commission meeting and at the Board of Supervisors meeting in the public hearing portion. So what Carolyn was just speaking to with signing up early, those would be the opportunities to comment on the finalized plan that the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors are considering that night.
Mariah, if I may, just quickly, just to be absolutely clear, people can also, you've mentioned this, people can send written comments to the Planning Commission, even if you can't attend. And if you feel like 3 minutes isn't enough to express yourself, you may send me a 20-page letter enumerating all of your comments. I will read it. And so will Supervisor Palmer.
Yeah, I was just going to add, thank you everybody for speaking tonight. And we do read all the comments, and both the Planning Commission and the supervisors. And we put great emphasis on those opinions. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so there are multiple ways to contact us. Emailing any of us on the call is one way. Also speaking is another.
Mariah, did you point out?
Anyone on the call, I specifically mean the Board of Supervisors member, the Planning Commissioner, and myself.
Mariah, did you point out that you may have said it and I missed it, that the staff report is available about 1 week prior to the Planning Commission and board meeting. So people will have an opportunity to see what staff is recommending, and they can see the whole packet. And that way, if they have comments after seeing the packet, they have an opportunity to respond to what's in the packet. You may have said that and I may have missed it. So sorry if I'm repeating.
No, I did not see that tonight. Thank you for adding that. Okay, well, with that, I think we're going to close out. Thank you again for participating tonight and joining us tonight. So thank you, and we're going to close the meeting now.
Well, when the meeting is over, I will make sure to get this posted tonight on the website. So if anybody wants to watch it again tonight or tell their neighbors about it, if you give me about an hour, be up on the county calendar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.